Are you digging up the dirt on your dead? Want to find out how? Hear the latest on new family history sources and websites with interesting and fun guests and experts. Find out what other people have been learning about their ancestors. From kings to thieves, inventors to farmers, nothing that's been discovered should surprise us anymore, but it always does. Find out what we mean. Great family history stories and information are on the way now with Extreme Genes, Family History Radio, and extremegenes.com.
Yeah, I don't think Mother knew about this.
Uncle Marvin was strangled by his own beard.
Yep, you never saw it coming.
Happy 4th of July weekend, Genies, and welcome to another round of Extreme Genes, America's family history show. I am Fisher, the radio root sleuth, on the program where we shake your family tree and watch the nuts fall out. And as always, I'm excited about this week's show. Our first guest coming up in about 10 minutes is Sarah Hermans, who is a leader in the Daughters of the American Revolution in Dutchess County, New York. In getting ready for this visit, she sent me some interesting material that might surprise you as it did me. In essence, there are other ways than serving in the Army that an ancestor may qualify you for membership in the DAR and SAR. Then Rhonda McClure from the New England Historic Genealogical Society joins David Allen Lambert and me later in the show to talk about organizing your overseas family research trip. And you know she'll have some great tips for us. And speaking of which, let's bring in our friend David Allen Lambert, Chief Genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society and American Ancestors. Happy 4th, David.
Happy 4th to you, Fisher. How are you?
I am excited and ready to spend some time with the kids and eat some really unhealthy food.
I think that's probably why the fireworks are there, to kind of jumpstart our hearts.
Exactly.
When the all kicks in.
By the way, this is a really interesting thing I just ran into about the colonial era. This is from Bruce Bustard. He is the curator of a National Archives exhibit on American alcohol consumption.
Okay.
And he says that right after the Constitution was ratified, he said you could see the alcohol consumption starting to go up. And he said 40 years later, drinking hit a peak of 7.1 gallons of pure alcohol per person in 1830. Wow.
I'm sure that there was reason to celebrate after all of the years of the war. I mean, from 1775 all the way through to trying to finalizing the start of the federal government. So I'm sure that there was a lot of celebratory toasts, if you will.
May be the case, but to give it a little comparison, in 2013, Americans older than 14, I don't know where they came up with that number, drank an average of only 2.34 gallons of pure alcohol. So we've moderated somewhat since the old days.
Well, I know that I wasn't lifting glasses at 14. I can tell you that much.
Exactly.
Well, you know, it's interesting because, obviously, the 4th of July, I mean, a lot of times we get questions here at NEHGS in Boston about people that are serving the Revolutionary War, but occasionally I get people that come in and say, my ancestor was a signer of the Declaration of Independence. Now, one of your ancestors fall into that category?
No, I had all privates and patriotic service, that kind of thing.
That's exactly the same as myself. Frederick Wallace Pine published a 7-volume set called Descendants of the Signers of the Declaration of Independence back in 1997. So if the person comes in, Fisher, and they say, I have this, now what's next? We confirm it. Starting in 1907, there was an organization called the Descendants of the Signers of the Declaration of Independence, and it's applicable to anybody over the age of 21. They even have children members, so the next generation can carry on. So that's one level of patriotic hereditary society that one could join. Now, maybe one of your listeners falls into that, but, well, here's another one. How about if your ancestor fought with George Washington or was an officer in the Continental Army? Anything like that in your family tree?
No, my wife has an officer, but not me.
Okay.
And you have to be direct mail line in this, don't you?
Well, that would be the direct mail line. There is a ladies' auxiliary of it. The Society of the Cincinnati is the oldest military hereditary organization, started in 1783 by George Washington and officers of the Continental. I'm actually honored to be a life member for New Hampshire through one of my ancestors who was an officer. Now, you can qualify for being a descendant of an original member that joined back then, or you could be applicable. They had a rule in 1854, a whole bunch of people that never joined could have qualified. You could fall into that. Then there are people that come forward that prove that their ancestor had served 3 years as an officer in the line and they weren't drilled out of the service or went AWOL, so they can go and follow up and make an application. There's 14 organizations, though. 13 of them are for the original colonies. You know what the 14th one is?
No.
France.
What?
France actually designed, Alphonse, who designed Washington, was one of the people who designed the actual Cincinnati medal, which is the same one they've had since 1783, with some minor changes. So yes, because of France's participation in the Revolution, the members and officers of the French forces, descendants of those, can join. So
and that's good.
Yeah, it really is. Now, some people can't even go to that level. So in 1876, on the centennial of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, an organization called the Sons of the Revolution started. Now, I'm a life member in Massachusetts, but now a lot of people listening will say, oh, I'm a member of that, but they probably are not. They're probably a member of the organization that started 13 years later, called the National Society of the Sons of the American Revolution. That started in 1889. And not to be confused with the ladies who started in 1890, the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution. And I understand your guest coming up soon will be talking about the DAR, and they have a wonderful library in D.C.
Yes, they do, and a lot of resources, and also some interesting ways to have that person that you descend from qualified so you can join the organization.
Absolutely. It's a wonderful organization. I research, when I go to D.C., I always make a trip over to the DAR library. There are some great resources there. One of the things that I always like to toss out is, of course, a technology tip, and this one kind of is great for families, especially with the 4th of July happening. On Facebook, you can, for free, create, I like to call, a family homestead. I've created 2 sets of them, one for my paternal, Lambert and Clark family, and my maternal, my mother's mother and father, the Poors and the Lees, and where I can gather in all my cousins. You know, with Facebook, you quickly find your second and third cousins and your fourth cousins 5 times removed. Let's put them all under one roof. So create a virtual homestead. You can exchange photos, recipes, even video links, and go as far as having a family reunion. I talked about Periscope. Maybe this is where you line up your idea of having a family virtual reunion across the globe.
And broadcast it.
Exactly.
With Periscope, which is great. And by the way, if you missed this was a couple of weeks ago, you can go to our website, extremegenes.com, and you can find some great links about just what this thing is, because you're going to be hearing a lot about it for a long time to come.
Very true. Very true. I think it's really becoming quite viral. A lot of people are utilizing it. And the only other thing I was going to toss out is, if you take a look at the Vita Brevis blog at NEHGS, I wrote a very interesting piece that got a lot of people talking, called A Question of Identity. A lot of people will say what their nationality is or where their origin is. Well, I'm American and Canadian because I get dual citizenship. But if I go back to my grandparents, I'm American, French, Canadian, and British. However, if I go to my great-grandparents, the French disappears, because my great-grandparents, who are the parents of the French one, were from Newfoundland and Nova Scotia and are not of French descent. So when someone says what nationality that they are, ask them at what tier. So check out my Vita Brevis on A Question of Identity and see what you think. So if you want to get the links to Vita Brevis to see other articles that NEHGS staff have written, go to the Extreme Genes website at extremegenes.com, or go to the Twitter page for Extreme Genes, or my own at DL Genealogist, or American Ancestors Facebook page will also have the links. So there'll be plenty of places for you to find the links to all the things I'm talking about, all the different societies, so you can click on them and enjoy the experience online.
Boy, it sounds like a lot of great information there. Thanks so much, David Allen Lambert. And you're coming back with us when we get Rhonda on here in just a little bit later in the show.
That would be my pleasure. She's a wonderful colleague and friend. I'm sure you'll enjoy hearing from her about her trips across the pond to do ancestral research.
All right, and coming up in 3 minutes, Sarah Hermans from the Daughters of the American Revolution joins us to talk about ways other than military service that an ancestor can qualify you for membership in the DAR or SAR when we return on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Genies, not long ago, something happened with one particular online research service that changed everything. It happened with a service that already has 75 million members worldwide, and it's not who you think it is. Hi, it's Fisher, and you know I'm always looking for new and better ways for you to discover your ancestors, not just the data, but the stories. The online service I'm talking about takes your family tree and then uses its powerful automated technology to match the people in your tree to over 5 billion records from around the world. Censuses, newspaper stories, vital records with 97% accuracy. This means no more wading through thousands of useless so-called hints. This also means the site itself is constantly looking for matches for you, even while you're sleeping. What site does all this? It's myheritage.com. You can try myheritage.com for free. Here's a special gift from me. Use discount code EXTREMEGENES after signing up and get an exclusive 20% discount at myheritage.com.
Did you know that Family Search Family Tree is available through a powerful new mobile app experience? That's right. Now you can view, edit, and even add information to ancestors in your family tree whenever and wherever you are. You no longer need to wait to get home or make a date with your computer to view or update your family tree. You can add details to your tree when visiting with family or when capturing details from a trip to the cemetery. You can share new family history discoveries from classroom settings. You can even make the most of your time when waiting for doctor appointments or car repairs. Get started today by downloading the free Family Search Family Tree app to your Apple or Android device. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to get the Family Tree app for free. Exploring and expanding your family tree has never been more convenient. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to download the Family Search Family Tree mobile app today.
While we all love diving into the deep end of our gene pool, don't forget about capturing the histories of those who are still with us. Go to Storyworth.com to start your family's story today. Each week, Storyworth.com will email a question to people whose stories you wish to preserve. Questions like, tell us about the day you got engaged, or what do you remember about your grandmother? All they have to do is reply with a story, either by email or by telephone. That story is then forwarded to the family and securely stored in a private online storybook. It doesn't get any simpler. You can enroll up to 6 storytellers for, get this, just $49 a year. You'll get a free 1-month trial, and for a limited time, Extreme Genes listeners get an additional 10% discount at Storyworth.com/ExtremeGenes. That's Storyworth.com/ExtremeGenes. Is your family story worth 13 cents a day? Sign up now at Storyworth.com/ExtremeGenes. Simple, secure, effective. Your story is worth telling.
You have found us. It's Extreme Genes, America's family history show. And ExtremeGenes.com. I am Fisher, your radio root sleuth. And it is 4th of July weekend. And once again, as we've done a couple of times in the past, I bring on my friend Sarah Hermans. Sarah, what is your particular title with the DAR in New York?
I am the Regent, which is a fancy word for president,
right,
of the Chancellor Livingston chapter of the DAR in Rhinebeck, New York.
Right, and you've been doing this for some time. And as we've been getting ready to talk about this segment, because you really can't do a 4th of July show and not talk about our patriot ancestors, you sent me a fascinating breakout of a project that you're all involved in identifying and putting together little biographies on some of the patriots that are buried in a particular cemetery.
Yes.
And you sent me this list of the names and the bios, but also some things that qualified them to be in the DAR. And I've been aware of many of them, of course, concerning military service. That's an obvious. But I think a lot of people who are not involved in DAR or SAR are not aware of patriotic service and what that means.
Absolutely, yeah. Military service, as you might imagine, you think privates, that's pretty basic, but it also goes to like Navy, if there was such a thing, believe it or not, privateers even, so all the fighting men you can imagine. But then you also have civil service, and patriotic service. So those are the other two categories, which could be guys who never lifted a finger to a weapon, but to maybe a pen or to donate things. Some of the things that you could qualify for what we consider to be patriotic service, which is anything that aided the cause of the Americans between the Battle of Lexington and Concord and the retreat of the British in 83. So it goes a little bit past the actual end of the war, because we're still, quote-unquote, fighting until they actually leave in 1783.
Right.
So if you were a signer of a oath of fidelity or allegiance or something like that that said, I support the American cause, and you signed your name in a public forum, and it was recorded, the most important part, it was recorded,
right,
and has made it down through history, and we have a record of that, that would qualify you for what we call patriotic service. And I'll list a couple other things, too. If you were a minister who gave a patriotic sermon, if you served in the Spanish troops, which is weird, makes me think, like, how's that patriotic service? But it is. If you gave material aid, if you were a widow and you had money to give or lead shot or hay or lodging, and somebody recorded it down and said, Widow Johnson, thank you very much for putting us up, signed Governor Clinton, and pay her some money. If that's in a book somewhere, Widow Johnson is a patriot and could be an ancestor in the DAR.
Wow. So there's a long list of things. I remember one of my wife's down in North Carolina supplied bacon to the troops, and that qualified him for patriotic service. And what was the other one you just mentioned? Civil service?
Civil service, any kind of a state or provincial or local official who was in the American government as opposed to the Crown government.
Right.
So if you had even like a supervisor of roads, I think that's one of my ancestors was a supervisor of roads, but the Americans were paying him, and it was between November 75 and I can't remember the exact dates. I'm a bad DAR. Between the dates that we consider 75 to 83, if you held that position, and there's a record of it, and it was the American government, American cause, even though you were just a civil servant, you qualify to be an ancestor in the DAR.
Boy, and that's really the key to all of this, isn't it? I mean, there are many, many soldiers and people who fought in the Revolution on behalf of the Patriot cause, and records of their service do not exist. I mean, a lot of them.
Yes, indeed.
And in fact, I had one who was in the area of upstate New York, near where you are, who was obviously involved in the Revolution because he signed what's called the Articles of Association, the Revolutionary Pledge. But we have no death date on him. We don't know what happened to him. I don't know that he ever served, but he was a justice at the time. And so having just discovered from your list that my guy was a signer of the Articles of Association, I now realize that we would qualify under him for membership in SAR and DAR.
Absolutely. The Articles of Association was, I don't remember if it's specifically a New York State thing. I think maybe it was.
It is. It started in New York City, from what I see, right after Lexington and Concord.
Yes, and copies of it were sent around, and all the local towns would, hear ye, come out and sign this thing if you agree with us. And the kicker was that if you didn't agree, and this was very early in the war, by the way.
Right.
April 75 it started, and by the summertime it was rolling across what was the state at the time, the colony. So if you were uncertain, you weren't necessarily a Tory or a bad guy, but if you said, I don't want to sign that, they'd put your name on the back and say, people who refuse to sign, and they'd write your name on the back.
Yes, and there's a lot of folks on there, including people who were in uniform for the Crown.
Yes, and there are people on the backside who said they didn't want to sign in 75 who fought in 76 or 77 who changed their minds, too. And that brings up an interesting point with what DAR considers service is we have something called the last known act, which means that if you signed the Articles of Association and said, I believe in the American cause, and then in 76 you're fighting for the British, and we have record of that, you're not a patriot, no matter if you signed that document or not, because you turned sides and your last known act was fighting for the British.
Right. And so the other way would work too, right?
Yeah, I had a prospective member who said, well, I have a worksheet that my grandmother filled out years and years ago for this one particular guy. Let's call him, John Johnson. And I said, well, John Johnson has a record here that he was in Nova Scotia in 79 with the blah, blah Rangers for the Crown.
So he left as a loyalist.
He left as a loyalist. He had fought. The funny thing with this guy was he had fought in like Westchester County, and then just changed his mind and went up and fought for the British. And I'm like, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
we're going to have to find you somebody else. We did, by the way.
Because the last recorded act, of course. So if they didn't sign the Articles of Association and then did fight for the cause later, then they're eligible. That makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah,
sure.
The other way around. So some people get freaked out when they see their ancestors' name listed on possible Tories on the backside of one of these things. I'm like, it was so early. If you had any trepidation that you might, sign up for the wrong cause and all of a sudden all your land and possessions are gone because you signed up with this ridiculous rebellion that sounds like it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Think about it. It must have been very, very scary at the time.
Yes.
To sign on. But if you look at the lists, the bulk of the lists are all signers, and then the backside there's usually a handful of guys that didn't sign.
Where are the originals of these lists?
I do not know. I assume it's the New York State Archive somewhere.
So they still
Usually
exist.
what you see, I think so. I think that what you usually run across is a transcription for sure, and it's frustrating because sometimes it says like German name illegible. But that
right.
would be my guy.
Well, let me ask you this, Sarah. What about other states? They must have had similar things like this that qualify people for membership in SAR and DAR.
Oh, sure. If you didn't have a list circulated to sign up and somebody kept and held on to forever and ever, there were other things like oaths of fidelity to the cause. There were in different states. For example, in Boston, there were people who were members of the Boston Tea Party, and that's all they did. And there may be some record of that in Massachusetts. Anybody who just defended a fort, he didn't actually fight, but he just stood in front of a fort and did that. That could be in any state or any colony. Yeah, if you were just a minister and you've got your church records that indicate that Minister Johnson gave a very patriotic sermon in 1776, and that's in Connecticut, then he could be a patriot because he gave this really rousing patriotic sermon that roused people to the cause.
Wow. It's just amazing how much there was to it. And when you think about it, I mean, this was also part of the growing desire to separate from England. I mean, the battle was about independence. It wasn't about everything else that was to come in the 19th century. But at that point, it was just about independence and separation. And you can see the fervor building by the number of people who signed these things and the few who wouldn't.
Correct. Yes. People felt like they were just being pushed around by England, and once it got rolling in Massachusetts, it just rolled straight across. It's just incredible to read the first-hand accounts of people raising militias and going to extreme, especially in the beginning of the war, extreme lengths to take cannons and march to Canada and all these crazy things. Like, it's amazing they survived. It's amazing anything happened. It's amazing we actually won the war.
It is, isn't it? I mean, you look at Ticonderoga, it's like, are you kidding me? All of it. Yeah. We capture it, we give it back. I mean, it's like, really? And then we haul the cannons back down. I mean, through the snow and beat them in Boston. I don't understand how this could have been done. But it's great stuff. Thank you so much, Sarah. Always great to talk to you. There's so much more we could talk about, but we have so many other things to get onto today. Have a great Independence Day and keep up all the good work you're doing in making sure all these great people are remembered for posterity.
Well, thank you for having me.
And coming up in 3 minutes, we're going to be talking to Rhonda McClure from NEHGS about planning your research trip to Italy on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Scientific studies have proven that youth who know even a little bit about their family history perform better academically and have a greater sense of personal confidence and stability. Genealogy is its own incredible superpower that arms our children with super strength. But how do you get your child or grandchild interested in studying their family history? That kind of stuff is just for grandmas, right? Not anymore. ZapTheGrandmaGap.com leaps the generation gap in a single bound. Author Janet Havorka provides you with useful and timely advice on helping the young people in your life become engaged in their own family history. Janet has an entire collection of books to inspire the young and the young at heart in fun, interactive ways. She also offers creative tips and advice on her blog and in her free weekly newsletter. Stop by ZapTheGrandmaGap.com today to sign up for Janet's free email newsletter with 52 weeks of easy tips, free downloads, and order your set of resource books and workbooks.
Can't figure out how to get your favorite Windows genealogy software running on your MacBook? Look no further than Crossover. Crossover by Codeweavers at www.codeweavers.com allows you to run your Windows software on your Mac without the need to buy a copy of Windows. Crossover is easy to install and simple to use. Crossover supports many popular genealogy packages, like Roots Magic, Legacy Family Tree, Personal Ancestral File, Family Tree Builder, and more. Crossover also lets you run other popular productivity apps, like Microsoft Office, and a wide range of games. So if you're looking for an easy, affordable solution to your Windows compatibility needs, visit www.codeweavers.com today to download your free trial of Crossover. And don't forget to use the deal code FAMILY for an additional 40% off when you purchase Crossover.
Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chart Masters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartMasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chart Masters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chart Masters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chart Masters today at FamilyChartMasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chart Masters will give the greatest care to your family history.
And welcome back to America's Family History Show, Extreme Genes, and ExtremeGenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth, with my good friend David Allen Lambert back on, the chief genealogist from the New England Historic and Genealogical Society and American Ancestors, and his good friend, genealogist Rhonda McClure. Hi, Rhonda. Welcome back to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
Now, David, she's got a lot of stuff going on there. You actually let her escape and go out and travel to Europe?
Well, you know, we like to let people on a short leash at NEHGS, so we figured across to Europe we could probably still pull her back. We haven't thought of the Siberia trip yet, but it's probably still in the works.
Well, and you know, now that summer is here, there's so many people who are trying to figure out what to do. How do you plan a trip, a genealogical trip across the pond? And Rhonda, you recently went to Italy, and how was that experience? Talk about it and give us some ideas of how people can plan for these things.
Well, it was a wonderful experience. I actually spent 3.5 weeks over there, traveled all over Italy for a project that we were doing. It was definitely a learning curve in certain areas, and especially if people are not familiar with the language, that's going to be their first hurdle.
I went to Germany many years ago, and somebody told me when I got there not to worry about it because all the Germans spoke English. But when I got there, none of the Germans spoke English.
It's definitely interesting. Certain areas, larger towns, the cities, obviously, there's more English spoken. But when I was staying with a particular family over there in Rome, one of the younger kids, 21, he commented that only Italians speak Italian. Everybody else speaks English. And so a lot of the younger crowd are obviously learning English as a primary language for them. But the problem is that if you get to some of the smaller communities or go into areas where dialects are spoken, that's where you really can run into some problems.
I bet. And how did you manage that?
Well, actually, I had been conversing via email with a Archivio di Stato, which is like a state archive. And they knew I was coming, but it was in a remote area. It wasn't exactly a thriving metropolis. When I got there, unfortunately, their southern dialect was just different enough that we were really struggling. And finally, the archivist looked at me and she asked if I spoke French, which I did. So we conversed the rest of the day in French.
I did that kind of thing myself once, going over the Alps from France into Italy, speaking a second language for everybody involved, and we got by barely that way. So that's a good way to go. So tell us about your planning for this and how you set it up and what kind of things that you learned, what kind of mistakes you made as well.
Well, the planning was sort of a little loosey-goosey, shall we say, in that I knew about the first week where I was going to be. I was going to be in Rome for the first week, talking to some family members who lived there for this project. But beyond that, it was sort of left up to who else I was going to be able to get in contact with. So I only had made 2 hotel reservations, the one in Rome and one in a town called Chicano, which is south of Rome. What I didn't realize was that Chicano has no taxis.
Uh-oh.
And so I got off at the train station, and I'm looking around, and of course I've come with my big luggage because I'm going to be there for so long. I ended up going across the street to a local bar and asking about a taxi. And the gentleman was very kind. He said, no, the one town back. Kind of looked at him like, well, now what do I do? He very quickly found one of his friends who took me to the hotel.
Wow.
But as we were winding up this very kind of curvy road, and I had no idea if we were really going to the hotel, I was sort of sitting there saying, wow, I'm in the car of a total stranger going I don't know where in a foreign country.
And can't even speak to him, probably.
Well, yeah, to this day, I don't know what I promised this man. I just know that when I got to the hotel, I played stupid American and dashed in the hotel.
Wow. How would you have handled this differently?
Well, from that point forward, I scouted out because I was traveling by train all over the country. So I made sure that wherever I was either very close to the train station such that I could dump my luggage at the hotel. So my hotels now became close to the train station rather than maybe close to something I needed.
Great
elsewhere.
tip. Great tip. Yes.
And the other thing I think I would do differently when I go back is I would pack much lighter. It was one of those things where I was like, oh, I don't know if I'll have a chance to do laundry and things, but that meant I had like this really massive suitcase that I was hauling everywhere. And they don't exactly have a whole lot of elevators and escalators to get you from one train track to the other. So I was doing a lot of schlepping up and down.
Oh, boy. Well, that's all great advice and good things to think about. Where did you go, and what was some of your experience with the records?
Well, I went to Rome, where I spent most of my time talking to family members. And there was also, as luck would have it, a museum of emigration that had literally just opened like that year at the Vittorio Emanuele Due monument down in the lower part, which was fascinating. And then I went to Chicano, south of Rome, as my next stop, and spent 3 days in the cemetery there because they wouldn't let me take pictures on pain of arrest.
Really?
So, yeah.
You could be arrested taking pictures in a cemetery?
At that particular one, yes, you could. It was posted at the cemetery. So I did a lot of scouring and transcribing, wishing I could take pictures.
Wow. And do they watch you while you're in there?
You know, I didn't know, and I wasn't about to tempt the fates because at the time Amanda Knox was, being released, so I was very aware of Italian prison life.
Yeah, I bet you were.
From there, I went to Milan, and that was sort of my personal side trip. I went not for fashion, but for hockey.
Oh, you're a hockey nut.
Yeah, nut is probably a little mild.
That is definitely putting it mild. Her knowledge of hockey surpasses most of the knowledge of probably any man sitting in a bar room in Boston. She could probably talk the shop better than probably some of the people in the NHL.
Well, that probably makes you very attractive to a lot of men in your area, Rhonda.
I wouldn't know. If you can find one, let me know. So I spent a couple of days there, literally, as I said, just to go to a hockey game. Then from there, I went over to the Adriatic side of Italy to a town called Ancona. Again, that was my home base because that was where the train would take me. And then I had to take a smaller train in, I thought, to a town called Sassoferrato, changing trains in a town just west of that called Fabriano.
Do you do a lot of this on the fly?
I did, yes. I would get to wherever I was going, and then I would look and I would book my next train, and I would book my next hotel. So I had gotten my train tickets for Sassoferrato. I got to Fabriano and was informed that there was a substitution of a bus, which, I was like, okay, I take buses here in Boston, no big deal. And what I discovered was that the lovely coach bus doubles as a school bus, and that because all the kids know where to get off, the bus driver wasn't announcing the stops.
Uh-oh.
I ended up at the end of the line. The guy looked at me, and he's like, oh, yeah, you were supposed to get off at Sassoferrato. So he put me on another bus. I'm sure there was some discussion of the stupid American again. And this bus driver proceeded to flirt with me until he got me back to Sassoferrato. And there I spent time again in the cemetery. This one I was allowed to take pictures at, so I was very happy about that.
So this is not a problem nationwide?
No. I think different ones, like I said, if I had had extra time in Chicano, I could have gone to Frosinone and I could have applied for a permit.
Oh.
But because my time there was very strict, I felt like it was better to use my time at the cemetery.
Well, it sounds like it's good to be aware, though, that each place is different so that you don't go with an anticipation that you can do something that's going to wind up getting you in a lot of trouble.
Exactly. And the other big thing is anybody thinking of researching over there wants to do is they want to start a dialogue before they ever show up. The Italian way of doing things is very laid back. You know, the first day I got to Campobasso, they were like, oh, yeah, no, come back tomorrow kind of approach.
Oh, boy.
So you want to be prepared for that, but you also want to let them know that you're coming, let them know that you appreciate everything they're doing. Start a dialogue, maybe make a donation if you're trying to get into the records of the particular church in an area, which may or may not work. You don't want to just show up on their doorstep.
Wow. Well, all great advice, and I wish we could continue this conversation, Rhonda. Thank you so much. We're glad you're home safely. You obviously got the right plane. And that's a much bigger deal than the bus.
It was, yes.
She's Rhonda McClure, a genealogist at the New England Historic Genealogical Society. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
And coming up in 3 minutes, we're going to talk to Tom Perry from tmcplace.com about what to do with those boxes of old audio cassettes you have on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Hi, Genies, it's Fisher, and I've been telling you about MyHeritage.com's amazing new technology that searches your family tree day and night for you, finding matches even while you sleep in documents and other people's trees. Here's a find I never would have made without it. It's a newspaper story about a relative of mine, Paul Sagal, who I knew many years ago. It's from 1943, when Paul was serving in the Pacific. When he learned his father died, he wrote a poem to his brother that indicated he wouldn't be returning for the funeral. He wrote, "There'll be no furlough for me. I'm in the Marines, you see, alive and well as I am. Memories I'll keep of my dad." Then the newspaper editor added, "These are all the sentiments that will win this war. There are treasures like this one waiting for you now. Put MyHeritage.com's superb technology to work for you with a 20% discount. Just enter the one-word promo code EXTREMEGENES. MyHeritage.com is the next big thing.
While we all love diving into the deep end of our gene pool, don't forget about capturing the histories of those who are still with us. Go to StoryWorth.com to start your family's story today. Each week, StoryWorth.com will email a question to people whose stories you wish to preserve. Questions like, tell us about the day you got engaged, or what do you remember about your grandmother? All they have to do is reply with a story, either by email or by telephone. That story is then forwarded to the family and securely stored in a private online storybook. It doesn't get any simpler. You can enroll up to 6 storytellers for, get this, just $49 a year. You'll get a free 1-month trial, and for a limited time, Extreme Genes listeners get an additional 10% discount at StoryWorth.com/ExtremeGenes. That's StoryWorth.com/ExtremeGenes. Is your family story worth 13 cents a day? Sign up now at StoryWorth.com/ExtremeGenes. Simple, secure, effective. Your story is worth telling.
Did you know that Family Search Family Tree is available through a powerful new mobile app experience? That's right. Now you can view, edit, and even add information to ancestors in your family tree whenever and wherever you are. You no longer need to wait to get home or make a date with your computer to view or update your family tree. You can add details to your tree when visiting with family or when capturing details from a trip to the cemetery. You can share new family history discoveries from classrooms settings. You can even make the most of your time when waiting for doctor appointments or car repairs. Get started today by downloading the free Family Search Family Tree app to your Apple or Android device. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to get the Family Tree app for free. Exploring and expanding your family tree has never been more convenient. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to download the Family Search Family Tree mobile app today.
It is preservation time at Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show, and extremegenes.com. I am Fisher, your radio root sleuth, with Tom Perry from tmcplace.com. We call him the Preservation Authority, and for a darn good reason. He knows a lot of stuff. And Tom, good to have you back.
Good to be here.
And we have an email from Hayes, Kansas. Sue has emailed that she writes her family's newsletter and distributes to the majority of the clan on CD. She said, I just listened to an episode where you talked about how quickly CDs go bad. Boy, that is so true. This is the 11th year for the letter. I'd like to purchase the Tayo-Yuden discs that you talked about and provide everyone with a compilation disc this year. When I went out to see about purchasing them, there were several choices, and I'm not sure which I need. 8 times, 50 times, 52 times, CD, DVD, help. Thank you, Sue.
Sorry, Sue. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you. Tayo-Yuden discs are usually only sold online or at duplicators such as ourselves, because Tayo-Yuden, the company, doesn't like to sell to mass merchandisers like Kmart and places like that, because most places you walk into, they don't know their DVD from their CD from their HDD. You want to make sure you go to an online merchandiser or one of our locations that you know has a good reputation, that's been around for a while. If they're Amazon or eBay, make sure they have a lot of stars, that people are giving them good information. When you get the discs, make sure the packaging is shrink-wrapped, it's sealed, and it says Tayo-Yuden on it. Because unfortunately, there's some people out there that try to say that they have Tayo-Yuden discs, and they're really not Tayo-Yuden discs. Now, if you see a big JVC logo on it, don't worry, because JVC Victor about a year ago did a co-op with Tayo-Yuden and started using their discs in their higher band type stuff that are better quality. And they figured, why reinvent the wheel? Tayo-Yuden makes the best. That's what all the professionals want, so let's do a deal with them. So if it says JVC in red letters and Victor, it's okay. It's a good Tayo-Yuden disc.
All right, so how do you spell that so people can search it as they go about this?
Okay, Tayo-Yuden, it's 2 words, Tayoyuden. So you should just be able to Google it, or if you go to disc wholesalers, manufacturers, places like that, you should be able to get a good hit on them. Different people sell them at different prices, but one thing you have to be careful, if it's too good to be true, I guarantee it's too good to be true.
Which means it's probably a
knockoff or something like that. And the thing is, you can't hold it up to the window and say, oh, wait, this isn't really a Tayo-Yuden, this is another disc. You won't know that till 3 months or 3 years down the road when it doesn't work anymore.
Oh. Boy, wouldn't that be brutal?
Oh, it'd be awful. It'd be awful. Like, we just celebrated our 43rd anniversary a couple of weeks ago, and we have been using Tayo-Yudens for, I guess, at least 20 years. That's when discs first started really coming out. And knock on wood, I have never, ever had one Tayo-Yuden disc come back that it stopped working or anything.
Do you think that means that they're still good 20 years later?
Oh, absolutely. You know, we guarantee our discs. We say, hey, if anything ever happens with one of the duplicates we've done for you or master we've done for you, I don't care what the problem is, as long as you haven't broken the disc or physically damaged it. Bring it in and we'll redo it at no charge, because Tayo-Yuden makes the best discs. That's why we use them, so we don't have to keep redoing your job. And after the break, we'll talk about your speed questions of which disc to buy.
Oh, boy, and there's so many choices, aren't there?
Oh, there are. They start out at like 4X, go all the way up to about 60X, DVDs, CDs, Blu-ray, everything.
All right, we'll get into that coming up in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chartmasters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartmasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chart Masters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chart Masters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chart Masters today at FamilyChartMasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chart Masters will give the greatest care to your family history.
When was the last time you heard your grandmother's voice or saw your family enjoying life back in the 1950s or 60s? If the reason is you haven't known what to do with your old recordings, videos, and films, here's your answer. The Multimedia Center in Salt Lake City.
We brought in a video project to the Multimedia Center, and overnight they duplicated it to DVD so we could meet our deadline.
The Multimedia Center, 2870 East, 3300 South, Salt Lake City. Open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. Call 801-483-1717 or go to transferduplication.com.
Can't figure out how to get your favorite Windows genealogy software running on your MacBook? Look no further than Crossover. Crossover by Codeweavers at www.codeweavers.com allows you to run your Windows software on your Mac without the need to buy a copy of Windows. Crossover is easy to install and simple to use. Crossover supports many popular genealogy packages like Roots Magic, Legacy Family Tree, Personal Ancestral File, Family Tree Builder, and more. Crossover also lets you run other popular productivity apps, like Microsoft Office, and a wide range of games. So if you're looking for an easy, affordable solution to your Windows compatibility needs, visit www.codeweavers.com today to download your free trial of Crossover. And don't forget to use the deal code FAMILY for an additional 40% off when you purchase Crossover.
Scientific studies have proven that youth who know even a little bit about their family history perform better academically and have a greater sense of personal confidence and stability. Genealogy is its own incredible superpower that arms our children with super strength. But how do you get your child or grandchild interested in studying their family history? That kind of stuff is just for grandmas, right? Not anymore. ZapTheGrandmaGap.com leaps the generation gap in a single bound. Author Janet Havorka provides you with useful and timely advice on helping the young people in your life become engaged in their own family history. Janet has an entire collection of books to inspire the young and the young at heart in fun, interactive ways. She also offers creative tips and advice on her blog and in her free weekly newsletter. Stop by ZapTheGrandmaGap.com today to sign up for Janet's free email newsletter with 52 weeks of easy tips, free downloads, and order your set of resource books and workbooks.
And we are back. Final segment of Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show. It is Fisher here, your radio roots sleuth, with Tom Perry, the Preservation Authority from TMCplace.com. All right, Tom, we're talking about these Tyo-Uden discs that last years, many times more than most discs do.
Absolutely.
And Sue had sent us this email from Hays, Kansas. She asks about speeds now, 8 times, 50 times, 52, CD, DVD, straighten her out, and the rest of us with her.
All right. When discs first came out, the first disc that they released was called a 1X. That means it takes the same amount of time to burn as it does to play.
Pretty much real time, right?
Exactly. That's exactly what they were. They were really, really slow machines. Then they came out with 2X, which is twice as fast, 4X, 4 times as fast, all the way up to 60X at 60 times as fast. Now, one thing you want to look at, speed isn't always the most important thing. You want to make sure you have the right discs for your machines. Like a lot of the first machines that came out that maybe are 2 or 4 times, don't buy 6 or 8s or 10s and put in them because you're wasting your money. However, if your machine will actually down burn them, is what we call it, you can still play them. So if you have a 2X machine, sometimes you will still play 8X discs, but it's only going to record it at a 2 times speed.
How do you know what you've got?
Oh, on your machine? Oh, your machine should say, like if you have a Mac, you go up to the little Apple and say about this Mac, and they'll tell you what speed your burner is. And a lot of the programs that actually burn disks will go in and read your disk driver and say, hey, you can burn it 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And then you pick which one. Like the DVD burners that we have, they're total state-of-the-art. They'll do the 64X. However, just because they'll do that, we don't do it that fast. The slower you burn, the better chance you're going to have of not having any mistakes or anything. So I usually burn only mine at, sometimes 8, 10X. It depends what we're doing. Not that it won't do good at the fast speed, because ours has a redundant system in it where it will go and check the disc and make sure there's no errors before it releases it.
Wow.
So it's a really cool system. Sometimes I'll burn them at a slower speed than it's rated for. Like I could have a 64-time disc and maybe only burn it at 32 just because it's a little bit slower. Sometimes when we're working with people that have damaged discs, we burn it at 1 time, because then it's a better chance of wherever that hiccup is in the disc that it might be able to compensate, over-track it, and write it correctly so the disc can be used. We've had people bring in discs that they couldn't play in their machine, but we could play it in our high-end machine, and so then if it's not copywritten, we would make a duplicate for them at 1-time speed. So if it's a 2-hour disc, it's going to take us at least 2 hours to do it, and then another hour to verify that everything is where it is. But if that's the only way you can recover your disc, it's worth the time and the trouble. You want to do that. But some of the really old equipment that's rated at 2X won't be able to even use an 8X disc. We have a gentleman that comes in our store usually once a month and buys 2X discs from us because he has tried 4 and everything else, and nothing will burn on his machine. He'll reject the disc every time. And they're hard to come by. So if you have a machine like that that's sitting in the garage and you're going to want to use it again, you better make sure you have some old discs, because it is hard finding 2s and 4s anymore.
Well, it sounds like it's about time for somebody to go out and get a new machine, doesn't it?
Well, unfortunately, some of these real old machines are really, really cool, and they never sold a ton of them, and it's all about money in the big world, so they stopped making them. So this is the only machine that he has that's recording, and he doesn't want to reinvent the wheel. They work for him. He understands his machine. He doesn't want to mess around. But sometimes you're going to have to do that. And another thing, if you have duplicators where you have like more than 1 disk drive, you might have 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. If one goes out, you need to replace them all at the same time. You can't just replace one of them.
Oh, boy. What a mess.
Oh, absolutely.
Sounds like there's a lot to know of these things, Tom.
Oh, there is. So if you have questions, write me, asktom@tmcplace.com, and we'll get back to you.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be here again.
It never seems like we have enough time. There is so much to cover. Thanks once again to Rhonda McClure and David Allen Lambert from the New England Historic Genealogical Society, and to our friend Sarah Hermans from the Daughters of the American Revolution, who had some great stuff to tell us about getting your ancestors qualified for DAR membership by means other than military service. Take care. We'll talk to you again next week. And remember, as far as everyone knows, we're a nice, normal family.